Hey friends, Alain Picard, how's everybody doing? It's wonderful to see you and to say hi this afternoon. Welcome to this painting demonstration and Q&A session. I'm so excited to be with you. I want to help you today to bring color freshness to your next, oh my goodness, I'm on. I have the chat here. I want to help you to bring color freshness to your next painting. We're going to do a color study today. It's going to take about 30 minutes, and it's all about having a risk-free playground for your work so that you can, kind of work out your color palette, so that you can express yourself using color and kind of work through the kinks in a risk-free environment. That's what we're going to do together. But before we get into it, I just want to say hi, welcome in the chat. And for those of you who are in the chat, let me see if I can check you all out. I lost the chat. You ever have that situation where you lose the chat on your device right when it switches? So I hope you're having a great time. Please let us know where you're connecting from so that we can say hi to one another. And again, use the chat, say hi, have fun, and share some of your own insights as we have this painting demonstration together. After the demo, I'm going to have a Q&A session. So live, I'm going to answer your questions about the Painterly Landscape online course as enrollment is open now. So if you have any questions, I would love to answer them right after this painting demonstration. So please ask all about them, and I'll be able to answer as enrollment is open until September 22nd at 7 p.m. Eastern time, okay? Let's get into this painting demonstration. We're gonna be doing a scene with fall trees. I'm a New Englander. I love the fall. It's beautiful, great color, great vibrancy. And I wanna have an opportunity to share that with you now to kind of, how do we capture that in an exciting way? So let me show you what I'm working on here, and we can continue this together. So I've got this wonderful reference of these trees in the fall right by the riverside. It's got some great color already. You can see those warm, greenish umbers, the reds and rusty oranges into that beautiful gold against the blue sky. So for me, it's all about that orange and blue, that gold against the blue and those rusty colors. The first thing I love to do is create a value sketch to understand my value. As you can see, it's a little crazy in here value-wise, meaning it's not like very, very simple through the trees. It's a lot of mid-tone, a little bit of dark. Even between the sky and the trees, the values can be a little confusing. It's really about the color clarity and contrast that happens. It's a lot of beautiful raking light on the foreground meadow in front of the river. Okay, so that's where we start. And then I've got this piece of UArt 400 grit. This is 6 inches by 9 inches. And if I'm gonna do a color study, this is literally the biggest I'm allowed to go. I wanted to go as big as I'm allowed for all of you so that you could see what I'm working on. But really, it is so important to keep a color study small and to really, we wanna make them quick, okay? We keep them small and make them quick so that we don't get too precious. It's all about the sort of impression, just capturing no detail, just testing out colors and shapes and marks so we can have that risk-free experience. So the first thing I'm gonna do, I have a piece of sort of gold a golden pastel. This is a soft pastel, and I'm gonna begin to lay that down because I wanna work on top of something here. I don't wanna start with this white paper. So I'm gonna lay this gold and just kind of place it on. Maybe I'll add a little bit more of a lighter golden yellow orange. It's kind of on the warm side of yellow, so the orange side of yellow. And that's gonna capture that wonderful glow of the light, and then I'll be able to put the blue on top, which will be exciting. Now, what do we do with this? So I've got this isopropyl alcohol. It's 90% from the pharmacy, and a brush. This is just a regular old golden Taklon flat brush, acrylic kind of brush. You could use it for watercolors or acrylic. And we're just gonna take this 90% alcohol and just wash over this surface. We're just gonna prep the surface. This is a mounted paper. I've mounted it on a little board so it's nice and stable. And I love underpaintings. And if you are interested in this, and if this might be new to you, in the Painterly Landscape course, we cover all kinds of underpainting techniques that can bring a lot of excitement and color activation to your work. It's actually an entire milestone of the 7-milestone course. And underpaintings bring serious excitement to the process of pastel painting. For those of you who know, you know how fun it is. It's just a good time. And it'll look a little darker while it's wet, but this 91%, the reason we're using it is because it dries really fast, and we love that. So that way we can get right back to the painting process. So as that dries, as you can see, that's a really nice tone, a nice kind of rusty golden tone that sets into sort of the light of the meadow and the tree, the more golden portion of the tree. So take a look with me at my palette as we let that dry. So I've got here, this is my big general palette, and sometimes I take this outside or keep it in the studio, and I've got some color down below that's specific to this piece. These are hard pastels, new pastels that I can sketch with. This is vine charcoal. I'm going to sketch with the new pastels today. I want to be in color mode. Some lavenders and some browns into this really important sort of red umber, you know, it's a rusty, deep red crimson and lots of pinks to reds to rusty reds. That glorious golden to orange hue, that's where really fall color, fall color, fall color. This is where the action is here, friends. This is it right here, the yellow ochre. We used these two colors for the underpainting right here, this gold and that lighter hue of it. Green umber, some warm greens for the light into the deeper shades, and then sky, right? Blue on the ultramarine, turquoise, violet, cobalt. We'll mix those, okay? So what we're gonna do is, to sketch this in, I'm going to use, let's just say this rusty, I'll use this rusty new pastel. This is 343P. You're out there, somebody wants to know which one it is. I don't know its name, but that's it. Okay, so we're gonna sketch this down. Now remember, this is a 30-minute painting, so we're not trying to create tons of detail, but I do need a basic understanding of the composition so I can lay this color down and kind of get a feel. Why do we do these color studies? What am I even bothering for? Why don't I just go big? Because inevitably, when you go big, you have a bunch of crisis moments. What do I do about this? What color should I deal with that? Oh, I wish I thought more about the sky and how it relates to the trees. All those situations are going to come up in your painting, and in the color study, you can kind of figure that out in advance. You can fight with some of those decisions in advance, or play. Maybe play is a better way to say it, because that way you know what to expect moving into the larger work, and you'll have a beautiful and exciting painting that you have a clear sense of direction for from a color standpoint. And I'm just looking for those big masses, those big shapes. There's a river back here, light on the meadow. Now where's these trees? That's really kind of only a couple things I need is the tree trunk locations. There's one moving up. There's two trees, little buddies over here on the side of the river, these wonderful sentinels, or these river guardians, we can think of them as. I love trees by the river. They just make me feel like they're gathering to enjoy the view. Okay, then there's one more trunk over on the right, creating this large mass of darker value. That's a really important tree because it gives us a nice value shape of dark there. So that's it. And the big situation here is actually these leaves that are gold and yellow are lighter in value. So I'm just going to locate them a little bit through there. Okay. So I can see that, and I'm just about there. I'm just going to lay a little bit of that underneath, and then we can jump in the back of the riverbed one more time. There's one more tree. You can see there's light on it here. I don't know, we don't necessarily need to put it in yet, but I'm just going to locate it. I like to know where my main characters are, so we can go from there. And these leaves on this tree at the left are kind of bitty and broken, so I don't want them to look too broken apart, but I like to try to create some masses. So I like to go dark, middle, light. So I'm gonna start with that foreground. Believe it or not, you say, Alan, put the sky in, right? Yes, we can put the sky in and we will, but I'm gonna start with that foreground. So I'm gonna look to my blue greens because that's in the shadow. And I'm going to bring this deep, rich blue green in. And this is really dark, actually. I'm gonna be careful not to use too much, but you know, you need the darks in your scene so that the color can be radiant. Let's step up a value, and so you can see how much lighter that is. That's considerably lighter, too much lighter. I need a little more juice than that. So this is another shade of the blue-green family. It's a little more neutralized, a little bluer, honestly. But I love to have that cool in the shadows, right? We just put a rusty kind of orangey gold down for an underpainting. And why even bother with that color? Well, it's giving us something to relate to as we put other colors down. We want to have that opportunity to kind of relate things, like all these blues, they're going to look sensational on top of this. You can see how beautiful on top of this gorgeous underpainting. So that's the excitement there. It really does activate the scene. And we're playing around here. We are having a good time. It's a bit of a playground, risk-free. We're not putting this is not our next gallery painting. This is not our next showstopper. This is an opportunity to understand and discover, you know, what could this color do for this painting, right? And let me tell you the amazing thing about that mindset of, hey, this is play, this is not overly important. It's like a Jedi mind trick for artists, because we take ourselves sometimes, maybe not you, but sometimes we take ourselves a little too seriously. And you know, of course, I'm as guilty as the next person. I want my next piece to be a masterpiece, but you know, it doesn't really work that way. And so when we do that, when we put too much pressure on ourselves, the work actually suffers and we don't take the same risks. So I'm going in with the turquoise. See that tint of turquoise? I'm establishing some of this sky here in the background before we go forward. So to continue that thought, the color study gives you permission to play, gives you permission to take risks, gives you permission to make quote unquote mistakes on your way to understanding the needs of the piece. And maybe doing something saying, hey, what if I go for it? What if I just try that crazy thing I wanted to try, but I'm afraid to do because I think I'm gonna mess up my painting? Well, the color study, friends, it's where you're gonna do that. It's going to pull things out of you that you never even imagined were possible or that you would do if you allow yourself, you know? You wanna really try, look at that turquoise. I mean, look at the way that turquoise, we don't even have trees, we don't even have fall, but that color next to this color is stunning. And that's the power of color and the excitement of it. But you want to have a color concept and really try to work something out. I'm going to look to maybe get in here now. Actually, before I go too far, what I'll do is I'll take my Cordovan. This is a dark 353. This is a dark, sort of rich color, and I can just push these trunks in a manner that we'll be able to see them, and they'll kind of stay as trunks. This will be about as much suggestion of details we're going to get here, friends. We're just going to scrub it in and then kind of leave it like that, because we're not interested in finishing this piece. This piece, the whole entire goal of this little exercise is not to finish anything. It's to explore. It's to play. It's to learn. It's to understand what's possible in this particular set of shapes and colors, and kind of go from there. Okay, let's get something in on that dark side. I think in that rusty, reddish, burnt sienna kind of beautiful color side on the bank, up on that. You know, I'm just gonna, for the background, like just start moving a little color into those distant trees. And this rusty red, it's great. I'm gonna bring it into this tree and kind of just use it as something that I can visually glue things together. It's a nice middle dark. You know, I just went from the shadow side of this tree foliage into that tree foliage into that background. So a little bit of glue, perhaps, to bind together those disparate shapes, right? I mean, shapes can get a little crazy, and certainly foliage, and we want to suggest that foliage. We don't want to be painting by the leaf. I always love to laugh. No one will ever pay you enough to paint by the leaf. So suggest, my friend. You don't, you know, maybe that doesn't matter and you're a hyper-realist and that's a beautiful thing, but, or maybe you found the ultimate collector who will pay you by the leaf. Be that as it may, this is how I love to paint. I love to suggest and be more of an impressionist. Just make a suggestion. I'm just kind of moving through as I see that color and that value and just pushing it through. But what I'd love to do is just kind of come back to the shadow side and to some of that colder color. I'm actually going to go right into like a nice blue. And I'm going to go more blue than I see, certainly, because I want to make a nice icy cold shadow, and I want to color contrast with the sort of gold orange thing that we're building here. So I'll lean a little further towards the blue, then instead of just going to the green. We will use green, but I just want to kind of establish some of this right up here on this shadow side. And you can see that I'm using soft pastel and I'm using the side and just trying to play with mark making as well. The color study is a great place to just play, have a good time. You know, get in on that. There's some brush in the foreground, a little bit of, you know, extra leaves. Maybe we layer that navy blue in there too. Maybe there's an extra little shadowy element in that front edge of the grasses, that back edge of the river. Add a little blue to that rusty situation. I'm going to come in with like violet, so slightly redder side of lavender, lighter in value, and just kind of as that goes back, it's not as dark. So I'm thinking for a moment, yeah, I'll just come up in here and layer a little of that violet in and around that tree, just to kind of transition that value. Maybe a little up here. You can I can refer to my value study to see what's happening. I can see some shadowy stuff over here. And this is likely not dark enough, but it's a good start. Let's get that river in. I'd love to see that river. And I want that river to kind of sparkle, so I'm going to come right in here with a nice rich blue, actually a little darker than that. A nice cobalt blue, and just drop in. Look at that, nice and bold. We're not being fussy here. Take the risk, push it in, have fun with it. Get that river moving. And there's that trunk. And so we're just kind of peeking in and around these different trees and trunks. A little more through there. Maybe it shows up back there. I'll go lighter for a moment here. This is one value lighter, and just kind of give it a little horizontal stroke for the current. I tell you, it's a lot of fun. These color studies are great fun. Let's get in now. Okay, so we got some of that, and actually, I've got this greenish umber, and I want some warmth now just in front of this. So as that light hits the this kind of brushy stuff at the front of the river, I want to see some of this before it gets even lighter. And then in this tree, like the foliage itself has some of this wonderful kind of nice greenish ochre. So I'm just going to layer it over the red umber that we used previously, or the kind of burnt sienna, I should say. And just start to layer that upon the foliage. And just suggest. Let's get this little guy, a little tree trunk going. Take a little step back, see how things are building. Looks a little crazy, right? A little crazy and wild, but we'll rein it in. Okay, so as we progress, we've got some color here. Let's bring some color into the wonderful rusty red tree. Now, I think the gold and yellow and orange next to it is the most chromatic element. So I love this tree, but I think if I go like overly red, like if I go pure red, it might compete. There might be a little bit of a shouting match between these trees. You ever see that on stage between a couple of singers, you know, trying to upend each other? We don't want to have a shouting match. So I'm going to let this tree be a little less important and let this be the star, this gold, that beautiful gold. And even coming down, I see these little moments where the leaves have changed color and they're sparkling against the river. So we're just letting that color sparkle its way through the painting. It's playful and it's fun. I see a little bit of like, almost like the leaves are sitting on the ground here in the foreground. And I will bring a little more, you know, let's go deeper. A little more like deep, rich green. Let's just get a little bit more green up in here. Nice, rich shade. Step back. Yes. So even moving through these trees, I'm going to use the green and connect the shadows of the trees a little. Almost like there's like shade under the trees. And we love that little movement, right? That wonderful. Yes, make sound language. Give yourself, get excited. You know, that's what I want my painting to do. It's like watching vintage Batman. Pow, whap, whop. I don't even remember all the sounds. Who remembers? I'm going to go back and look in the chat later. Someone's going to tell me that they've remember some good sound effects from vintage Batman. Coming through, just bringing a little more of that brush up in front of the tree. And when you have a strong color, like we used for the underpainting, you know, it crackles through, and you kind of keep one eye on when you want to keep it pushing through and when you want to cover it, you know, when it's being too active. Come up here with this lighter green umber. You barely see it now. It's like it's the same value, just slightly different hue. Squinting. So I'm squinting my eyes so I just see like the total suggestion. And I'm just observing, where does this color and value show up anywhere else? And if I see it, I just record that, you know? And squint, squint, squint. You really need to squint your eyes. This is still just the underpainting. Adding a little bit of warmer green here and there. I've got some wet wipes. I clean those fingers. Those are like, you know, keeping the brushes clean, keeping the fingers clean so that as we go to the lighter color, we keep it really nice and clean, okay? Hey, we've been painting for less than 20 minutes. We're already developing a scene here. Okay, so let's see. Let's start to move in and add some of that cadmium orange in. So I've got this really strong, this is a serious chromatic cad orange. Now orange is an incredibly strong color. It's a secondary color, but it just has a lot of chroma. It's very, very radiant. So I'm just kind of watching as we build this. Let's go a little, see if this is darker. A little bit darker. Maybe that just sneaks down on the lawn. Coming up into the tree, I've got almost the same color as the background, but it's gonna be just the slightest bit lighter. And a little more impasto, we'll start making some golden indications up in the tree. We'll add a little little bit of that. Well, let's go a little less chromatic here, very on this hillside. Just a little bit of light tinting on that field of grass, but I don't want it to be too colorful. This is a great color for the trunks. Maybe a little bit over here, hitting that trunk. Let's see, I've got yellow ochre, and I'm just going to add a little yellow ochre to that trunk and to, let's make sure they don't match too well. And to the grass, we'll just start to layer a little bit of activity there. So you got to give yourself permission to go for it in the color study. You know, you can be a little more reserved at another time, but this is not that time. The color study is where we cast off restraint. If you need to, you know, you can put some music that just gets you excited and bold and just kind of go for it, you know. Now what? Now what? I'm squinting my eyes, I'm looking, I want to see a little more light back there through the trees. Maybe I sneak in and just kind of bring a little gold and yellow. That's good. Let's go a little darker, a little warmer. Similar to the underpainting this color, but it's just slightly different. Okay, I'm starting to feel the kind of mood of the piece, the mood of the color. I'm going to shift back to the sky, actually, and just look at a couple of opportunities to push more blue up top. Yeah, let's go it a little even further. Let's go one darker than that here and there, just a little more. That's probably too dark. Back off that mark. See, I can test it out and say, oh yeah, that value's a little too far, so we'll keep from going that far in the final, in a larger painting, if ever there is one. And there doesn't have to be one. You could be just testing things out, trying out a scene. Now that color that was too dark up there, I think it'll be wonderful to flirt with the river in places. That would be really nice, just to give the river a little more richness and intensity. I think we need a little bit more like lavender to poke its way through. So I'm going to bring a couple of really pale lavenders like this. And I don't see them in the sky in the reference, okay? But that doesn't need to stop me. I want a little more color variety within the value spectrum. And boy, that's nice. I like the way that works in the low horizon to interact with the turquoise. I've always loved mixing like pinks and pale lavenders and turquoise in the low horizon. So, you know, why not now and why not here? I've just dropped the value considerably, like from here, because I'm creating sky holes. So I want to, you know, keep the value a little deeper and richer within. Whoop! Ooh, I just squished this glorious Diane Townsend soft form. I squished it. The soft pastels need to start a union because I'm abusing mine. Squeezing them too hard. Poor things. Okay, so that's a little bit much. So let's come back in and, well, I've got this rusty sort of shade of crimson red. I'm just going to bring a little more dark value in here and there, right on top of that area. I'm going to bring it right in here, come down towards this tree. So we're kind of switching between the cooler and the warmer, right? The cold shadow, the hot, warm moment. There's something exciting about both. Okay, as I come in here, I've got just a peat or a kind of brown, and I'm just going to push a little into the background, kind of back edge. Now, if this piece were bigger, I'd probably do that earlier, and you know, this is just a little rough in. Go right into that wonderful hazy blue. I come back to my deep blues, a blue-green first, and this is a real deep blue-green shade, and just move up that riverbed for a moment, come up underneath this again. So much about communicating the sense of light is about not just value contrast, which is certainly significant, but also color contrast. You know, move from that cooler, bluish side to that warmer, orangey or golden cast, and all of a sudden, bang, with the yellow, the light comes alive. Maybe just a little more value in here somewhere that connects from, you know, this tree to this, like a little more sort of shadowy foliage. A little bit of navy, neutral. I'm going to come in and add some burnt sienna. Like I want more of it somehow. It's all dirty here, just a little sparkle, let it sparkle again. Some of these overlapping moments. If this kind of thing is new to you, you're gonna have to give yourself permission to kind of feel like it's a hot mess and be okay with that. You just gotta give yourself permission to not blend everything, not clean everything up, not make everything quote unquote pretty, not, you know, just to let it live in this, what might feel like a rough, unvarnished state. That's how we're gonna find our way toward something fresher, more expressive. And it's gonna feel uncomfortable at first. So you just gotta you gotta coach yourself a little bit. I'll coach you, I'd love to. I just encourage you to, you know, let it live. And one of the ways we coach ourselves with this kind of thing is in time management. I'm just gonna put a little crazy talk, yellow, orange. Look at the chroma here. This is out of control, this color. All right, that's enough of that one. That just seems wild and crazy. I'm just looking with my squinted eyes at the scene, and I'm just seeing whether I want to come back. I'm just gonna push at that for a sec and come back. Just carve a little bit more turquoise into that moment. Turquoise, it's such a powerful blue on that, you know, light valued green side of blue. It's just wonderful. And just the slightest bit of, just without overdoing it, just a little chroma here on this red. just test it out, see if you can live with a little bit of that activity. So much fun. Okay. Ding, ding, ding. My time is up. I just spent about 30 minutes, and that is the time I allow myself for these color studies, because if I spend more time, well, I'll tell you what, if I spend more time, I just start to beat on the little thing. I start to overdo it, overwork it. I start to care too much about it. I start to try to turn it into a little Fabergé egg, a little treasure, a little, masterpiece. And that's not the purpose of the color study. So, color studies. It's an absolute playground of risk, of adventure, of fun, but you got to keep them small. You got to make them quick, 30 minutes or less, and allow yourself to establish a color concept. Okay, how much fun is that? We just created a color study together. I hope you've enjoyed this painting demonstration. It's been so much fun.